On April 2, 1912, the Unsinkable Titanic set sail on its historical adventure. The Titanic was traveling from Belfast to New York. Along the way, it would stop at Southampton, Cherbourg, and Queenstown. The passengers on the Titanic did not know what was ahead for them.
The Titanic had many passengers in third, second, and first class. The lower number of class, the more money it cost. The first class passengers had to pay the most money for fancier things and the great view on the boat. The Titanic's first class had famous people from all over the world. Some of the people included John Jacob Astor, multimillionaire, Isidore and Ida Strauss, partner of Macy's department store, and the captain of the Titanic, Edward John Smith, whose body has not been recovered from the Titanic or identified. Some of the things that were fancy on the Titanic were the grand staircase, the barbers, and the dining room. Some of the things on first class were accessible to the second class, and very few things were accessible to the third class. The Titanic also had available mini sports and an Olympic-sized pool. When the Titanic hit the iceberg, everything was tossed around from the crash, and later water was hitting all the stuff.
The Titanic is remembered in history as one of the worst ocean disasters. On July 31, 1908, a contract was signed for construction of the Titanic and her sister ships, Olympic and Britannic. The construction of the ship began in Ireland on March 31, 1909, and was launched 2 months later on May 31 from Ireland. On February 3, 1912, Titanic was put into a dry dock. On April 4th, the Titanic arrived in Southampton, England just after midnight. On April 11th, the Titanic left Queenstown for the journey to New York. And on April 13th, the Titanic had covered over 900 miles in its journey from April 11th to the 13th. Then it received a warning from the Rappahannock Hancock telling them dangers of ice. On April 14th, 1912, the Titanic got more warnings of icebergs while the water dropped below freezing.
It was Thursday, April 11, 1912, when the Titanic left Queenstown Island. It sailed for 3 days when this unsinkable ship hit an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. It was the end for many people. The Titanic had 2,201 people aboard the ship, but only enough lifeboat space for 1,178. In less than 10 minutes, the ship's front 5 compartments were flooded to a height of 14 feet above the keel. In the accident, 6 compartments were immediately opened to the sea. At 12:30 a.m. on April 15th, they started filling lifeboats with women and children. 15 minutes later, they started lowering the lifeboats into the icy sea that was 65 feet below. Not all of the lifeboats were filled completely because some of the people were reluctant to leave the ship because they thought the risk on the Titanic was less than the risk on the lifeboats. After the ship sank, they quickly changed the law that ships would carry enough lifeboats for everyone aboard. Captain Smith sent out wireless messages to nearby ships. The messages continued until 2:17 a.m. when they unexpectedly ended. The Unsinkable Titanic sank at 2:20 a.m.
People say the tragedy of the Titanic was not that the Titanic sank, but that there were not enough lifeboats to save everyone. Even with 20 lifeboats available, they were not all filled. About 1,500 passengers and crew died in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. Only 711 survivors were rescued and brought back to New York by the rescue ship Carpathia. There are many things to remember about the Titanic, by including the 100th anniversary cruise, a movie, and the movie's theme song. The cruise will be held in 2012 with a 12-day cruise that sails from Southampton, England, and New York City, New York. There is also a whole museum devoted to the Titanic and a moving Titanic exhibit.
The tragic event that happened on April 15, 1912, shocked the nation. Some of the passengers on the Titanic lost their lives, and some did not. The day of April 15, 1912 is remembered in history and will forever.